The great crystal dome of Zentara Prime stretched toward the purple sky like a mountain made of light. Inside, 12 ancient races gathered around a circular platform that floated in the center of the vast chamber. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They called themselves the Galactic Council of Enlightened Species, and they believed they were perfect. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the center of the platform, her small human form dwarfed by the massive aliens around her. She wore Earth's finest diplomatic uniform, but it looked plain next to the shimmering energy forms of the luminals and the crystalline bodies of the Vorth. Her heart pounded, but she kept her face calm. This was humanity's only chance to join. The galactic community. Honored Council, Sarah began, her voice echoing in the chamber. I come before you representing the human species of Earth. We seek membership in your great alliance. A wave of dismissive thoughts rippled through the chamber. The Vorth, tall beings with purple skin and large heads, communicated through telepathy. Their leader, Counselor Zeth Kar, barely bothered to look at Sarah as his mental voice filled the air. Another young species, his thoughts projected with boredom. How predictable. Sarah activated the holographic display she had prepared. Images of Earth appeared in the air above her. Beautiful cities, great works of art, scientific achievements, and moments of human cooperation. She had spent months preparing this presentation. We have much to offer, Sarah said. Our scientists have developed new ways to travel through space. Our artists have created beauty that moves the heart. Our people have learned to work together despite our differences. The Kithara, a hive-minded insect race, buzzed their disapproval. Their collective voice spoke as one. Your species still fights wars among yourselves. Your planet shows signs of environmental damage. You have not learned to control your emotions. Sarah felt her cheeks burn, but she continued. We are young, yes, but we are also adaptable. We learn quickly. We can bring new perspectives to old problems. The luminals, beings made of pure energy, flickered with what might have been amusement. Their speaker, Counselor Thys, spoke in a voice like music. New perspectives? Child, we have existed for millions of years. We have seen thousands of species like yours. You believe your youth is strength, but it is weakness. Around the chamber, other council members nodded or made their species equivalent of agreement. The silicon-based crystallians chimed like bells. The gas cloud ethereals shifted their forms dismissively. The plant-like rootkin rustled their leaves in what Sarah had learned meant rejection. We have transcended the primitive drives that still control your species, said Counselor Veltar of the Aqueous. His water form rippled as he spoke. Violence, greed, individual desires, these things hold you back. Until you evolve beyond them, you cannot join civilized society. Sarah felt the presentation slipping away from her, but she pressed on. Our emotions and individual thinking make us creative. They help us solve problems in new ways. They make us care about others, even strangers. Exactly the problem. Zethkar's mental voice cut through her words like a blade. Your attachment to individual identity prevents true unity. Your emotions cloud rational thought. Your creativity is merely chaos disguised as innovation. The other council members murmured their agreement. Sarah realized with growing despair that they had already decided. This meeting was just a formality. We have reviewed your species' history, continued the Vorth leader. Constant warfare, destruction of your environment, inequality among your own people. You ask us to trust a species that cannot even trust itself. We're trying to do better, Sarah said, her voice smaller now. We've ended many conflicts. We're healing our world. We're learning to— Learning, interrupted Counselor Thys, with a sound like tinkling glass. Always learning, never mastering. We achieved perfection eons ago. We have no war, no want, no waste. We are what you aspire to become, but your species lacks the evolutionary maturity to reach our level. The floating platform began to descend, a sign that the hearing was ending. Sarah felt panic rise in her chest. Please, give us a chance. Let us prove ourselves as junior members. We can contribute. Impossible, Zethkar's telepathic voice boomed. The Council cannot risk corruption by primitive influences. Your species shows concerning tendencies toward unpredictability. You value individual achievement over collective harmony. You form emotional bonds that interfere with logical decision-making. Sarah looked around the chamber at faces that showed no sympathy, no understanding. These beings saw humans as children playing with dangerous toys. They couldn't understand that humanity's supposed flaws might actually be strengths. "We have reached our decision," announced the council speaker, an ancient being whose species Sarah couldn't identify. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "Humanity is denied membership in the Galactic Council. Your species lacks the necessary evolutionary development for galactic citizenship." The words hit Sarah like physical blows. She had known this might happen, but hearing it still hurt. "However," the speaker continued, "we are not without mercy. Return to your home system. Develop your species. Learn to transcend your base nature. In 10,000 years, perhaps 15, you may reapply for consideration. 10,000 years. Sarah almost laughed at the absurdity. These beings thought in geological timescales. They couldn't understand that humanity might change completely in just a few centuries, not millennia. "We understand your decision," Sarah said quietly, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "We thank the Council for their time and consideration." She paused, looking up at the alien faces around her. Most weren't even paying attention anymore, already moving on to what they considered more important matters. But Sarah wanted them to remember this moment. "We'll find our own way," she said. The words seemed to hang in the air for a moment. A few council members glanced at her with what might have been curiosity, but most ignored her completely. They had heard such defiant words from rejected species before. It meant nothing to them. As the platform reached the chamber floor, Sarah gathered her materials and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the crystal hall, a lonely human sound in an alien place. Behind her, the council was already discussing their next agenda item, some trade dispute between the aqueous and the rootkin that they considered far more pressing than humanity's future. Sarah reached the doors and turned back once more. The great chamber stretched before her, filled with beings who considered themselves the pinnacle of evolution. They sat in their perfect society, convinced that they had nothing left to learn, nothing left to become. They had called humanity primitive, chaotic, immature. Maybe they were right. But as Sarah walked through the crystal corridors toward her ship, she felt something that none of these perfect beings seemed to possess anymore: determination to prove them wrong. The stars waited beyond Zentara Prime's atmosphere. Somewhere out there was humanity's real future, not the one these ancient beings had tried to deny them. Sarah smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. They would find their own way indeed. 500 years had passed since the Council's rejection, and the galaxy looked very different now. While the ancient races remained in their core worlds, content with their perfection, humanity had spread across the outer rim like wildfire. Captain Maria Vasquez stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel New Horizon, watching a binary star system through the main view screen. The twin suns cast strange shadows across the asteroid field where her people were building their newest colony. This was territory the Council had marked as unsuitable for civilized habitation. The humans disagreed. "Captain," called Lieutenant Park from the communications station, "we're getting a signal from the Rockborn mining station. They want to discuss the trade agreement." Maria smiled. The Rockborn were silicon-based life forms who lived in asteroid belts, feeding on minerals and rare metals. The Council had classified them as primitive resource gatherers and ignored them completely. Humanity had seen potential partners. "Put them through," Maria said. The view screen flickered and showed Granite Husings, the Rockborn trade coordinator. His crystalline form sparkled with inner light as he spoke in the melodic tones his species used for important conversations. "Greetings, Captain Vasquez. Our partnership continues to bring prosperity to both our peoples. The Council races ask for our minerals but offer only scraps in return. You humans trade as equals." "That's how it should be," Maria replied. "Your people know these asteroid fields better than anyone. We need that knowledge, and you need our manufacturing techniques. Fair trade benefits everyone." The conversation continued for several minutes, discussing shipping schedules and new mining sites. When it ended, Maria felt the same satisfaction. She always did after dealing with humanity's new allies. The Council thought they were superior because they were old, but age without growth was just stagnation. "Captain," Lieutenant Park called again. "Long-range sensors are picking up a stellar Wanderer fleet approaching from the outer system." Maria's expression brightened. The stellar Wanderers were nomads who traveled between stars in massive bioships grown from space-dwelling organisms. They had been wandering the galaxy for millions of years, but the Council considered them irrelevant vagrants because they had no fixed territory to claim. The lead bioship was a beautiful sight, a living vessel over 2 kilometers long, its hull pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Captain Drift Between Stars contacted them directly through the quantum communication web humanity had helped the Wanderers establish. "Human friends," came the captain's melodic voice. "We bring news from the far reaches. The deep-think philosophers have agreed to your proposal for a cultural exchange." Maria felt excitement rise in her chest. The deep-think were aquatic beings who lived in the dark spaces between galaxies, spending centuries in meditation and philosophical discussion. The Council had never even tried to contact them, considering them too alien to understand. Humanity had reached out anyway. "That's wonderful news," Maria said. "Dr. Patel has been looking forward to this exchange for months. What changed their minds?" "Your people's questions intrigued them," Drift Between Stars replied. "The Council races ask them for ancient wisdom, expecting simple answers. You ask them to explore new ideas together. They find this refreshing." After the Wanderer fleet continued on their journey, Maria walked through the corridors of her ship toward the diplomatic section. The walls displayed artwork from dozens of species, crystalline sculptures from the Rockborn, flowing light patterns from the Wanderers, even musical compositions from the methane-breathing harmonic singers. Each piece told a story of friendship and cooperation. She found Dr. James Park in his laboratory working with samples from a recent expedition. Park had become one of humanity's leading experts on exotic life forms, but his real talent was seeing the potential in beings others dismissed. "How's the analysis going?" Maria asked. Park looked up from his microscope, his face bright with enthusiasm. "Fascinating. These organisms from the Shardsinger homeworld aren't just creating music. They're actually reshaping matter at the quantum level through harmonic frequencies." The Council classified them as primitive sound makers, but they might have the key to a completely new form of technology. The Shardsingers were one of humanity's newest allies. These crystalline beings communicated entirely through complex harmonies that could make solid matter resonate and change shape. The Council had dismissed them as curiosities, but humanity had recognized the scientific potential. "The Shardsingers want to collaborate on terraforming projects," Park continued. "They think their harmonic technology combined with our engineering could reshape dead worlds in decades instead of centuries." Maria nodded, unsurprised. This was how humanity operated now, finding the hidden potential in species the Council overlooked, building partnerships based on mutual respect and shared discovery. An alert chimed through the ship. Maria touched her communication badge. Vasquez. Here. Captain, we're receiving a priority message from Admiral Chen at the Colonial Alliance headquarters, came the voice of her communications officer. Maria hurried back to the bridge. Admiral Sarah Chen, daughter of the ambassador who had faced the Council's rejection 5 centuries ago, appeared on the main screen. Her weathered face showed both determination and concern. Maria, we need to talk. Something's happening in Council space that we need to discuss. What kind of something? Maria asked. Intelligence reports suggest they're facing some kind of external threat. Long-range sensors have detected massive energy signatures moving through their core systems. The Council is being very secretive about it, but our allies in the border regions are picking up scattered transmissions. Maria frowned. The Council had spent centuries convinced that their perfection made them untouchable. If something was threatening them, it had to be serious. Do we know what kind of threat? She asked. Not yet. But Maria, there's something else. We've intercepted Council communications discussing primitive species in the Outer Rim. They're finally paying attention to what we've built out here. Through the view screen, Maria could see the lights of the asteroid colony growing brighter as more structures came online. In the distance, a Wanderer bioship was sharing navigational data with a human exploration vessel. A rock-borne mining platform sparkled with activity as workers from 3 different species collaborated on a new extraction technique. This was what humanity had built in 500 years, not a perfect society like the Council claimed to have, but a growing community of different species working together, learning from each other, becoming something greater than the sum of their parts. Admiral, Maria said quietly, do you think they're finally realizing what they missed? Sarah Chen's expression was grim. I think they're about to learn that dismissing others as primitive can be a very dangerous mistake. Keep your people alert. Maria, I have a feeling we're all going to be tested soon. The transmission ended, leaving Maria alone with her thoughts. Around her, the bridge crew continued their duties, humans working alongside several alien species who had chosen to serve on human vessels. These beings had found something with humanity that they couldn't find in their own isolated communities: purpose, growth, and acceptance. The Council had called humanity chaotic and primitive. Maybe they were right about the chaos. But chaos could be creative. Chaos could adapt. Chaos could survive things that perfect order could not. In the asteroid field beyond, the lights of cooperation continued to grow brighter against the dark of space. The first sign of trouble came from the Deep Space Monitoring Station orbiting the dead star Kepler-7. Sensor operator Thix, a methane-breathing harmonic singer working alongside human technicians, detected the anomaly during his routine shift. Commander Hayes, Thix sang in his musical language, the translation device converting his harmonic speech to words. Long-range sensors show massive gravitational distortions approaching from intergalactic space, energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Commander Lisa Hayes studied the readings with growing alarm. The objects were enormous, each one larger than a moon, and they were moving at impossible speeds. More disturbing, they seemed to be consuming the very fabric of space-time around them, leaving empty voids where star systems used to exist. How many? Hayes asked. At least 50 confirmed contacts, possibly more behind them, Thix replied, his harmonic voice carrying undertones of fear. Commander, they are heading directly toward Council Core space. Hayes immediately sent an emergency transmission to the Human Colonial Alliance headquarters. Within hours, Admiral Sarah Chen was studying the data alongside her diverse staff of human and alien advisors. What are we looking at? Asked Dr. Kayla Patel, humanity's leading expert on exotic technologies. Something that shouldn't exist, replied Vel Nash, a deep-think philosopher whose massive aquatic form floated in a specialized tank. His ancient voice carried through the water with grave concern. In our wanderings between galaxies, we have heard whispers of such beings, the Devourers, ancient machine intelligences that strip entire star systems of matter and energy, the fool. Room fell silent. Admiral Chen felt ice in her veins. How ancient? Older than the council races, Velnash continued, older than the galaxy itself. They came before long ago, and consumed the civilizations that existed then. We thought them legend, but legends sometimes return. The first council worlds fell within days. Zentara Prime, the crystal planet where humanity had once been rejected, lasted exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. The planet's legendary shields, powered by the combined mental energy of billions of Vorth, shattered like glass before the Devourer weapons. The Council's emergency session was chaos. For the first time in millennia, these perfect beings experienced genuine terror. Councillor Zethkar, now ancient even by Vorth standards, projected his thoughts in panicked bursts. Our weapons have no effect. The Luminal's energy manipulation cannot penetrate their defenses. The Kithara hive mind cannot find individual consciousness to target. Councillor Thys, her energy form flickering with distress, added, "They adapt to every strategy within minutes. Our perfected tactics become useless the moment we deploy them." System after system went dark. The aqueous homeworld simply vanished, leaving only empty space where a blue jewel had orbited its star for billions of years. The Crystallian world cracked like an egg, its silicon-based inhabitants unable to sing their protective harmonies. Fast enough. In desperation, the Council accessed their deepest archives, records sealed for millions of years. What they found confirmed their worst fears. The Devourers had come before, had consumed the galaxy's previous inhabitants entirely. The current civilizations had grown in the ashes of that ancient destruction. "The cycle repeats," whispered the council speaker, its ancient voice cracking with despair. They returned to harvest what has grown since their last feeding. It was Councillor Veltar of the remaining Aqueous who spoke the words that would have been unthinkable weeks before. "We must contact all species. Every civilization, no matter how primitive we may have considered them." The emergency transmission went out across the galaxy, reaching every known inhabited system. "This is the Galactic Council of Enlightened Species. The galaxy faces extinction from an ancient enemy. All civilized beings must unite immediately, or all will perish. We call upon every species to join in our defense." The message reached the human colony ship Defiance as it traveled between star systems. Admiral Chen read the transmission twice before calling her staff together. Around the conference table sat humans alongside rockborn, stellar wanderers, harmonic singers, and representatives from dozens of other species. "Well," said Captain Drift Between Stars, his melodic voice carrying dark humor, "it seems the Council finally remembers we exist." "They're desperate," observed Granite Who Sings, his crystalline form sparkling with what humans had learned indicated deep thought. "Our trading networks span half the galaxy. Our combined resources dwarf theirs now." Admiral Chen studied the tactical displays showing Devourer movements. The machines were methodically consuming Council worlds, but they seemed to be ignoring the Outer Rim territories, perhaps because the Council had never bothered to map them properly. "Admiral," said Commander Hayes over the quantum link, "we're receiving follow-up transmissions from Council space. They're begging now. Offering full membership, technology sharing, anything we want if we help them." The room fell silent. These were beings who remembered the Council's dismissal, who had been called primitive and chaotic and unworthy. Now those same perfect beings needed their help to survive. "What are your orders?" asked Captain Maria Vasquez from her position. "At the asteroid colonies." Admiral Chen looked around the table at the faces. human and alien, that had built something new in the galaxy's forgotten corners. These beings had found strength in cooperation, innovation in diversity, hope in change. Everything the Council had rejected. "Send our response," Admiral Chen said quietly. "Tell them we stand ready to defend the galaxy. All species welcome in. The Alliance." The transmission went out immediately. "Council of Enlightened Species, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Colonial Alliance. We have received your distress call. We stand ready to coordinate galactic defense against this threat. Our alliance includes 47 species across 800 systems. We offer our full resources and capabilities to any who will work with us as equals." The response from Council space came within minutes, and for the first time in 5 centuries, it carried a tone of respect. "Admiral Chen, we accept your offer of alliance. Please advise how we can coordinate our remaining forces with yours." Admiral Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Send them our tactical protocols and fleet positions. And Commander Hayes?" "Yes, Admiral." "Make sure they understand. This is a partnership between equals. No more talk of primitive species or evolutionary superiority. We're all just people trying to survive now." As the alliance took shape across the galaxy, one fact became clear to everyone involved. The species the Council had dismissed as primitive now commanded resources, territory, and capabilities that dwarfed the ancient race's remaining strength. The students had become the teachers, and the lesson was just beginning. But the Devourers were still coming, and survival would demand sacrifices that no one yet understood. The war began in earnest when the Devourer fleet reached the Middle Systems, where Council territory met humanity's expanding alliance. The first major battle took place at Kepler Station, humanity's deep space monitoring post that had first detected the enemy. Commander Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of the defense platform as hundreds of ships approached. Human vessels alongside alien allies the Council had never bothered to understand. Rockborne mining ships had been converted to mobile weapons platforms, stellar Wanderer bioships pulsed with organic weapons that could repair themselves in battle. Even the peaceful Deep Think had emerged from their meditation to offer their massive vessels to the fight. "Devourer contact in 30 minutes, reported Thix from his sensor station. The harmonic singer's musical voice carried harmonics of determination, mixed with fear. Hayes watched the tactical display as the enemy formation approached. 12 massive machine vessels, each the size of a small moon, accompanied by thousands of smaller craft that seemed to spawn from the larger ones like deadly seeds. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen," came the voice over the communication network. "Remember, these things adapt to repeated tactics. We hit hard. We hit different every time, and we don't give them a chance to learn our patterns." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Traditional Council tactics, elegant formations, predictable maneuvers, weapons designed for civilized warfare, proved useless. The Devourers adapted to each strategy within minutes, their machine intelligence processing and countering every move. But humanity's alliance fought differently. Captain Yuki Tanaka led a mixed squadron of human fighters and rock-borne interceptors in a chaotic dance around the enemy formation. Her tactics made no logical sense. She would attack, retreat, change direction randomly, then strike from an unexpected angle using weapons the rock-borne had improvised from mining tools. "This is madness," transmitted Counselor Zethkar from his command ship, watching the human tactics with horror. "This is survival," Admiral Chen replied coldly. "Your perfect strategies are getting you killed. Sometimes madness is the only sane response." The Devourer's machine minds struggled to predict movements that followed no logical pattern. Human intuition, guided by alien expertise, created combinations the machines couldn't anticipate. When harmonic singers used their crystal resonance to shatter Devourer hull plating, human engineers were ready with specially designed weapons to exploit the weakness. But the cost was enormous. Kepler Station fell after a 14-hour battle, its crew evacuating only after ensuring the deep space sensor's data reached the Alliance fleet. Commander Hayes went down with her station, buying precious time for refugees to escape. The war spread across the galaxy like a disease. Every system became a potential battleground. The Devourers showed no mercy. They consumed everything: planets, stars, even the space between worlds, leaving empty voids where civilizations had existed for millions of years. Captain Maria Vasquez found herself commanding a mixed fleet defending the New Geneva colony, humanity's largest civilian settlement in the Outer Rim. The siege lasted 14 days as wave after wave of Devourer assault craft attacked the orbital defenses. "Admiral, we can't hold much longer," Maria transmitted during a brief lull in the fighting. Her ship, the New Horizon, was barely holding. "Together after countless battles." "Help is coming," Admiral Chen replied. "The Stellar Wanderers are bringing their entire fleet. Hold for 6 more hours." Maria looked at her crew, humans working alongside aliens who had chosen to serve on human vessels. They were exhausted, wounded, but still fighting. Behind them, transport ships evacuated millions of refugees from dozens of species, all fleeing. The advancing machines. 6 hours, Maria told her crew. "We hold for 6 hours." The final assault came at dawn on the 15th day. The Devourers threw everything they had at the colony, but Maria's defense held just long enough. As the last transport cleared the system, Maria gave the order that broke her heart. "All ships, withdraw. New Geneva is lost." The colony burned as they retreated, but 3 million beings lived because of their sacrifice. The Council's ancient worlds fell one by one. The luminous realm, where beings of pure energy had existed since the galaxy's youth, went dark in an instant. The Kythera hive worlds were consumed so quickly that their collective mind barely had time to scream before silence took them. As each civilization died, their final messages reached the Alliance. Counselor Thiss's last transmission resonated across the galaxy. "We were fools. We believed our perfection made us strong, but it only made us rigid. The humans saw what we could not, that strength comes from change, from growth, from the courage to be imperfect. We thought ourselves evolved, but we were merely stagnant." The war's final phase centered on Earth itself. Humanity had turned their homeworld into a fortress, converting the moon into a massive weapons platform while orbital stations ringed the planet like deadly jewels. Every human who could fight had returned home. Every alien ally who had chosen to stand with humanity took position in the defensive fleet. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the command deck of Earth's primary defense station, watching the largest Devourer fleet ever assembled approach through the outer system. 1,000 machine vessels, led by something so massive it warped space around itself. The Devourer Prime, the intelligence that commanded their entire species. "All ships, all stations," Admiral Chen broadcast to the fleet. "This is where we make our stand. Not for territory, not for glory, but for the right of thinking beings to exist in this galaxy. Today we prove that chaos has its own kind of perfection." The battle for Earth lasted 3 days. The human fleet fought with desperate creativity while their alien allies contributed everything they had learned in centuries of dismissed existence. Rockborne ships rammed Devourer vessels while their crystalline hulls sang harmonics that disrupted machine systems. Wanderer bioships absorbed enemy fire and converted it to healing energy. Deep-think philosophers used their vast minds to predict machine movements and guide allied attacks. But it wasn't enough. The Devourers adapted too quickly, learned too fast. Earth's orbital defenses fell one by one. The moon cracked under sustained bombardment. The planet's surface began to burn as machine tendrils reached down to consume everything they touched. In the final moments, as the Devourer Prime itself descended toward Earth, Admiral Chen made the decision that would echo through galactic history. She looked at her bridge crew, humans and aliens who had become family in the crucible of war. "It's been an honor," she said quietly. The Admiral rammed her flagship directly into the Devourer Prime's central core, detonating every weapon and power source on the ship simultaneously. The explosion was visible from Mars, but something unexpected happened. The Devourer Prime didn't just take damage, it began to malfunction in ways its builders had never programmed. The chaotic energies from human weapons, amplified by alien technologies the machines had never encountered, created cascade failures throughout the machine network. Across the galaxy, Devourer fleets suddenly went silent as their controlling intelligence flickered and died. The machines, built to counter logical opposition, couldn't process the beautiful illogic of desperate courage combined with impossible hope. The tide turned in that moment. The surviving Devourer units, cut off from their network, were defeated one by Alliance forces that had learned to fight like humans, chaotically, creatively, with the strength that comes from having everything to lose. When the last machine fell silent, the galaxy was saved. But Earth was a cinder, humanity's population reduced to scattered survivors, and the cost of victory hung heavy in the space between the stars. The war was won, but everything had changed forever. 2 years after the war's end, the galaxy was quiet in a way it had never been before. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was the silence of graveyards, of empty spaces where civilizations had once thrived. Earth hung in its orbit like a burned coal, its surface still glowing with the heat of destruction. Humanity's homeworld was gone, and with it, the heart of the species that had saved the galaxy. Admiral Sarah Chen III stood in the observation deck of the massive construction platform orbiting what had once been Pluto. Around her, the greatest engineering project in galactic history was taking shape, a fleet of generation ships unlike anything ever built. Each vessel was a world unto itself, designed to carry thousands of beings across the vast emptiness between galaxies. Sarah was the granddaughter of the ambassador who had first faced the Council's rejection, and the daughter of the admiral who had died ramming the Devourer Prime. The weight of that legacy pressed on her shoulders as she watched another completed ship join the growing fleet. "Admiral," came a voice behind her. She turned to see Captain Drift Between Stars, the Stellar, wanderer whose bio-ship had fought beside humanity throughout the war. His organic vessel was now permanently docked with the human fleet, its living hull growing new sections to accommodate the exodus. "The deep-think philosophers have finished loading their archives," he reported. "They're bringing everything, every meditation, every philosophical insight they've gained in their millions of years of wandering. They say it's their gift to whatever new galaxies we find." Sarah nodded, unsurprised. So many of humanity's alien allies had chosen to leave with them. The Rock-born had loaded their greatest artists and engineers onto human ships. The harmonic singers had brought their most beautiful crystalline instruments, even some surviving. Council races had asked to join the exodus. "Admiral Chen," came another voice over the communication system. "Long-range sensors detect a council delegation approaching. They're requesting permission to board." Sarah sighed. She had been expecting this visit, dreading it. The surviving council members had been sending messages for months, growing more desperate with each transmission. The galaxy they had once ruled was dying, not from war, but from stagnation. Without humanity's chaotic energy and constant innovation, the remaining civilizations were slowly fading. "Let them come," Sarah said quietly. An hour later, she stood in the main conference room of the construction platform as the council delegation was escorted in. Only 5 of the original 12 races remained, and even they were shadows of their former glory. Counselor Zethkar looked ancient beyond measure, his purple skin now almost gray, his once powerful telepathic abilities reduced to whispers. With him came Counselor Thys, her energy form flickering weakly, and 3 others representing the last remnants of civilizations that had once considered themselves perfect. They moved with the weight of beings who had finally understood the true cost of their arrogance. "Admiral Chen," Zethkar said, his mental voice barely audible. We come to beg." The words hung in the air like a confession. These beings, who had once dismissed humanity as primitive, were now pleading with the descendants of those they had rejected. "Please," Zethkar continued, his thoughts filled with desperation. "Don't leave. The galaxy needs you. We need you. Without humanity's, your chaos, your heart, your impossible hope. We're dying. Not from war, but from the emptiness of our own perfection." Counselor Thys flickered brighter for a moment, her energy form struggling to maintain coherence. "We understand now what we lost when we rejected your species. You offered us partnership, and we gave you condescension. You showed us new ways of thinking, and we called it primitive. We were wrong about everything." Sarah looked at these ancient beings who had finally learned wisdom too late. Around the conference table sat the remnants of humanity's leadership, scarred veterans of the war, engineers who had rebuilt their civilization from ashes, diplomats who had held the alliance together through its darkest hours. "You want us to stay and help you rebuild?" Sarah said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Zethkar replied immediately. "We can offer you anything. Technology, territory, full membership in a new council designed around your principles. We'll make you the senior partners, the leaders. Just please, don't abandon the galaxy to emptiness." Sarah walked to the observation window, looking out at the generation ships taking shape in the darkness. Each vessel represented humanity's refusal to be defined by others' limitations. They had been called too young, too chaotic, too primitive for galactic civilization. Now, they were leaving to build something entirely new. "Do you know what you're really asking?" Sarah said without turning around. "You're asking us to stay and fix the mistakes you spent millions of years making. You're asking us to save you from the consequences of your own arrogance." "Yes," Thys said simply. "That's exactly what we're asking." Sarah turned back to face them, her expression unreadable. "My grandmother stood in your chamber 500 years ago and asked for a chance to contribute to galactic civilization. You told her we were too primitive, too chaotic, too young. You said to come back in 10,000 years when we had learned to transcend our nature." The council members looked down, unable to meet her gaze. "We learned," Sarah continued, "but not what you expected. We learned that our chaos was actually adaptability. Our emotional attachments were actually the bonds that let us build something larger than ourselves. Our primitive individualism was actually the diversity that made us strong." She gestured toward the window where the generation ships waited. "You had your chance to work with us as equals. You chose to see us as lesser beings who needed to become more like you. Now you want us to save you because you finally realized you needed to become more like us." "We know we don't deserve your help," Zethkar said, his mental voice breaking. "But the galaxy, without growth, without change, without the spark that your species brought, it's becoming a tomb. We're the last generation of our peoples. Our children are born already tired, already accepting that nothing new will ever happen." Sarah felt something twist in her chest. Not sympathy exactly, but recognition. These beings were facing the death of hope itself, and that was a fate she wouldn't wish on anyone. "I understand your situation," she said finally, "and I'm sorry for what you're facing, but humanity has made its choice." She activated the holographic display, showing the completed generation ships in all their glory. Massive vessels that were part spacecraft, part city, part ecosystem, designed to carry their inhabitants across the endless void to new galaxies, where no ancient prejudices waited. "We're leaving," Sarah said simply. "Not in anger, not for revenge, but because we've outgrown the need for your approval. You spent so long telling us we weren't good enough for your galaxy that we decided to find our own. But the knowledge we could share, Thais pleaded, the wisdom of millions of years. Your wisdom taught you that perfection was possible and change was unnecessary, Sarah interrupted. Our experience taught us that growth requires constant challenge and that diversity creates strength. Those aren't compatible philosophies. Zethkar made one last desperate attempt. What if we changed? What if we rebuilt our societies along human principles? What if we proved we could learn? Sarah looked at him for a long moment, seeing the genuine desperation in his alien features. Then maybe, in a few thousand years, you'll be ready to join us as equals. But that's your journey to make, not ours to guide. The council delegation left in silence, their ships disappearing into the darkness between the stars. Sarah watched them go, then returned to overseeing the final preparations for humanity's exodus. 3 months later, the Generation fleet was ready. Thousands of ships carrying humans and their loyal allies, bound for the Andromeda Galaxy, where new worlds waited to be explored and new civilizations waited to be built. As the fleet prepared to depart, Sarah recorded humanity's final message to the galaxy they were leaving behind. To the Galactic Council and any who might find this transmission in the years to come, we sought partnership and were offered pity. We offered friendship and received condescension. You judged us by our youth and found us wanting, not understanding that youth is the source of growth and change. We leave behind only these words. Strength comes not from perfection, but from the courage to grow. Wisdom comes not from age, but from the willingness to learn. The future belongs not to those who have achieved stasis, but to those who embrace the beautiful chaos of becoming something more. Learn from what remains of your civilizations. Ashes, after all, are excellent teachers of humility. The message was broadcast on all frequencies as the human fleet engaged their intergalactic drives. One by one, the Generation ships vanished into the space between galaxies, carrying with them the hope and chaos and impossible dreams that had saved a galaxy and then chosen to leave it behind. In the empty space where Earth had once been, an automated beacon continued broadcasting humanity's final gift to those they left behind, not anger or revenge, but the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes understanding comes too late for forgiveness, and the price of arrogance is being left alone with the ashes of what might have been.